chose a été fait pour améliorer la situation de la femme rurale. Beaucoup reste à faire. À la première dame de notre pays et à toutes les premières dames du monde, la femme rurale compte sur vous.
You're welcome to another exciting edition of your favorite program, the Farmers Corner on Lakeside Radio, FM 91.8 in Kumba Broadcasting at Lido Sweet Doctor. There was building Farmers Corner. It's a program aimed at educating farmers on how farmers could better manage their farms, looking at some of the worries and problems of the farmers. And on today's edition of the program, Lakeside Radio, in partnership with Farm Radio International, we shall be giving you background information on the production of groundnut in Cameroon. My name is Bidbang Louis. We'll be under the supervision of Madame Dewo Morin and Senyambot Divine. Stay tuned. You're welcome back. As earlier mentioned, we told you we'll be giving you background information on the production of groundnut in Cameroon. This is in partnership with the Farm Radio International. And today, generally, groundnuts are one of the most important food and cash crops in Cameroon. They are mostly grown by small-scale, resource-poor farmers, particularly women. And in odd areas in Cameroon where groundnut is being produced, most small-scale groundnut farmers use little or no fertilizer or pesticides. Cameroonian farmers grow groundnut in Cameroon primarily for household use, with the surplus for sale. Groundnuts are a good source of protein, vitamins and vegetable oil, and are a significant part of household diets in most parts of the country. Groundnuts can be grown at low cost. They are a particularly easy cash crop because they don't require specialized skills, equipment or fertilizer. Groundnuts normally require family labor and sometimes a little hired labor. Groundnuts are normally considered as subsistence rather than a cash crop in Cameroon, so farmers do not usually consult extension workers when they have problems. As a result, farmers may not have information on good groundnut practices. In Cameroon, groundnut production is high in the northern part of the country. And to note is that groundnuts are a rain-fed crop in Cameroon. Less than 1% of groundnut are irrigated. Groundnuts do well when they are grown immediately following a well-managed and fertilized crop such as maize. This is because groundnuts are good at utilizing residual nutrients. For best results, groundnuts should not be grown in the same field 2 years in a row. This reduces damage from soil-borne diseases, soil-dwelling pests and weeds. Of course, groundnuts can be grown in a wide range of rotations and can follow any cereal or root and tuber crop. For example, maize, millet, cassava, sweet potato or sunflower. To minimize diseases and pests, groundnuts should not be sown after any legume, that's like cotton or tobacco crop, to minimize pests and disease attack. We'll now look at groundnut seeds and varieties. Most small-scale groundnut farmers use seeds saved from the previous harvest, while others buy seeds from vendors or receive from NGOs. However, to achieve higher yields, it is advisable to use high-quality seed. Groundnut seeds intended for sowing should be hand-shelled and sorted in order to eliminate skin, immature, moldy, broken and small seeds. The most popular variety are CG7, that's red in color, and Chalimbana, that is tan in color. Other varieties equally include Shimjuro, Baka, Kakoma, also called JL24, and Chalimbana 2005. It is advisable for farmers to use improved varieties because some not only yield higher but are also more resistant to diseases such as rosette and aflatoxin. Kakoma is more susceptible to disease than the other varieties, while Baka, Chitala and Kakoma are early maturing varieties. They take 90 to 120 days to mature, while Chalimbana and CG7 can take up to 150 days to mature. Chalimbana 2005 is an improvement of Chalimbana variety, though it takes the same period to mature, that is 150 days. It is higher yielding and less susceptible to diseases. In areas where rainfall begins earlier, it is advisable to grow early maturing varieties like the Baka, the Kakoma and the Shimjiro. CG7 is however more drought tolerant and can thus be grown in a wide range of areas. We are now looking into the farming practices. We begin with the planting. Land preparation for groundnut takes place before the growing season starts. Farmers plant groundnuts before the full rain begins, that is, that rain sufficient enough for planting. Groundnut needs at least 26 millimeters of rainfall for planting. It was often said that groundnuts were planting with the first rains, but with the climate change, the first rain are not usually enough for planting. Farmers usually plant groundnut after crops such as maize and tobacco. However, it is advisable to plant groundnuts together with all the other important crops. Ridges can be made flat tops, that is for those who want to sow 2 rows per ridge. Seeds must not be sown immediately after heavy rains or they will absorb too much water, which cause rotting. Seeding after heavy rains also results in excessive soil compaction, which may block germination. Early sowing improves yields, partly because groundnuts avoid the stresses of late season droughts. It also prevents diseases like rosette and leaf spots, which affect groundnuts when they are planted late. Significant planting delays can reduce yield by 50% and reduce the quality of the nuts. Groundnuts grown on ridges tend to have higher yields, probably because the looser soil in the ridges encourages pot development and easy uprooting. Box ridges retain soil moisture better than open ridges. Ridges are normally placed 75 cm apart. When ridges are 75 cm apart, double rows can be planted on the ridge at 30 cm apart. Planting double rows at the spacing results in groundnut plants covering the soil rather quickly, which sheds out weeds. Plant spacing between seeds depends on the variety. For example, CG7 and Chalimbana, it's planted 15 cm apart in a row. Early maturing varieties such as Kakoma, Baka, and Chitala are spaced at 10 cm. Improved varieties will increase yield, but good management practices are also necessary for good yields. This includes early planting, planting good quality seeds, and use of recommended varieties. Almost all groundnut farming activities are done manually. And we're now looking at how weeding of the groundnut is done. Because groundnut plants do not compete effectively with weeds, particularly for the first 6 weeks after sowing, it's important to weed within 45 days after sowing. Rotating crops can reduce some types of weeds. It's recommended that farmers weed groundnuts at least twice during the growing season. This first weeding can be done with a hoe. Further weeding should be done by hand to avoid damaging the developing pods of the groundnut plants. Another important aspect to note is disease and pest management. Several plant diseases can cause major yield losses. We begin with the groundnut rosette. Groundnut rosette is a viral disease transmitted by insects called aphids. Rosette is the most destructive disease of groundnuts. and can cause up to 100% loss of yield in several cases. It is common in Cameroon and other groundnut producing countries in Africa. In years with serious drought, rosette is more serious and farmers can lose their entire crop. If rosette occurs at flowering, yield losses are very large. Early dense sowing helps control rosette by covering the soil as quickly as possible and restricting the movement of the aphids which transmit the disease. Groundnut varieties which are resistant to rosette are widely grown in Africa. In Cameroon, many farmers interplant groundnuts and maize to control groundnut rosette. Now look at the aflatoxin. Aflatoxin is not actually a disease, rather it is a toxic substance produced by a microorganism called a fungus, commonly called a germ by farmers. This particular fungus, with the scientific name Aspergillus flavus, commonly affects groundnut pods and seeds, producing aflatoxin. Groundnuts contaminated with aflatoxin are poisonous to people, causing liver cancer and stunning in young children. They are also poisonous to livestock. Groundnut cannot be exported to Western countries unless aflatoxin levels are very low. When groundnut seed is contaminated with aflatoxin, the seed is rotten and cannot be planted. Aflatoxin can contaminate groundnuts at any point during the production and post-harvest cycle, that is, in the field, during harvest, during drying, and in storage. Contamination is more likely to occur in the field during drought because groundnut pods can crack in dry weather, allowing fungi to invade. To minimize aflatoxin contamination in groundnut fields, the following practices are recommended. Use improved varieties. Rotate crops. Plant early so harvest occurs while there is still moisture in the soil and the pod doesn't crack and let fungi in. Use correct plant spacing to shade the soil and maintain soil moisture. Where possible, apply lime to harden the pod, decreasing the possibility of cracking. The rate of application is 200 kilograms per hectare. Applied after flowering, lime contains calcium which thickens pod or pot walls and decreases the possibility of infection. Also, it is recommended to add phosphorus-rich fertilizer such as SSP and D compound. Apply manure when sowing may help reduce infection and aflatoxin contamination. Manure also encourages soil-dwelling microorganisms which manage soil and seed-borne infections. Where possible, the groundnuts can be irrigated if the rainy season ends early. Control pests and diseases such as termites. When farmers use improved varieties and good management practices, aflatoxin levels may be low at harvest, but aflatoxin levels can quickly rise with poor drying practices. When water is used to soften shells or when contamination nuts are mixed with uncontaminated nuts, thus most of the critical points for controlling aflatoxins are post-harvest. Another aspect is early and late leaf spots. About a month after planting, small spots can appear on leaves, which can enlarge and turn brown or black. This is early leaf spot. 6 to 8 weeks after sowing, larger circular black spots are symptoms of late leaf spots. Because the fungi known as germs to farmers that cause leaf spots survive mainly on crops residues in the soil, rotating crops, that is, removing volunteer plants, that is, plants that grow from the previous season, and burying crop residues during early land preparation can significantly reduce early and late leaf spot. Another aspect is the termites. Termites can damage groundnut roots and stems and bore holes in the pods, thereby damaging nuts. When termites damage pods, they also provide an empty pod for the fungi that produce aflatoxin. To control termites, incorporate crop residues of cereal crops like maize early enough. As they decompose, the residues produce a heat which repels termites. Also, Destroy termite moulds and remove queen termites. It's important to completely destroy the moulds. Partial destruction or partial destruction is not effective. Another aspect is to plant early. Groundnuts will then mature before late season drought. Early planting leads to healthier, more vigorous plants which can better tolerate termite attack. Correct plant spacing is also important. It can result in yields which are high enough to offset termite losses. Harvest promptly. Delaying the harvest increases termite damage. Apply chemicals. Avoid banking and weeding at the same time. This should be done at 2 separate times. We now look at the soil fertility. Groundnuts are legumes and therefore add nitrogen to soil, improving soil fertility for the next crop. For example, planting groundnuts will improve the yields of maize grown after groundnuts. Groundnuts tolerate low nitrogen soils. Their extensive root system allows them to use fertilizer or manure applied to previous crops in the rotation. However, direct fertilizer application will increase groundnut yields, especially on infertile soils. In other parts of the world, extensive agents recommend that growers apply 100 to 150 kilograms of D-compound fertilizer per hectare when preparing land for groundnut production. D-compound is 8815, that's NPK, and contains sulfur and boron. It is not recommended to apply fertilizers high in nitrogen because they promote vegetative growth. Instead, it is important to apply fertilizer rich in phosphorus such as single superphosphate, the SSP. For farmers who cannot afford fertilizer, it is recommended to apply 2 handfuls of manure per planting station. Alternatively, farmers can open the ridge during land preparation and broadcast 20 kilos of manure per 10 meters ridge. Groundnuts grown in calcium-deficient soils will produce very small pods. To balance calcium-deficient soils, add gypsum at flowering at a rate of 200 to 400 kilograms per hectare depending on the calcium levels of the soil. Farmers should ask for soil tests to know the nutrient levels of their soil. It is important to note that groundnuts respond well to manure. That is, manure not only supplies nutrients but also helps to balance soil acidity. We are now looking at another aspect, which is the harvesting. Farmers should first verify if their groundnuts have matured by sampling plants at each corner of the field. At least 75% of the sample plants should be mature. Groundnut plants are mature when the inside of the pod is dark brown. It is not advisable to use leaf drop as a sign of maturity because leaf drops can be the result of diseases. Mature seeds also have a thin and papery seed skin that is the same color as the variety and does not easily rub off. Immature seeds have thick, fleshy, pale colored skin which rub off easily. Harvesting includes several stages: lifting, that's uprooting; drying, cooking, that's curing; plucking, that's separating the pods from the vines; and shelling. Once plants have been uprooted, they must be allowed to dry for a few days with the pods exposed to the air. After drying, they are cocked, that's cured in an off-the-ground position. The cock should be built so that there is a free flow of air through the cock. This will result in a quick and short drying. The pods are then left in the cock for 2 to 4 weeks. After this period, begin picking when the seeds rattle in their pods. It is estimated that one person can pick 1 to 250 kilograms of bags per day. We now look at yield and reasons for low yield. The low yield are caused by a number of factors, which includes using recycled seeds or low-yielding varieties, infertile soil, pest and disease attack, competition for labor with other crops. That is, groundnut is a labor-intensive crop. Farmers may prefer to spend time on other crops such as maize, which may result in not performing important activities such as weeding. Erratic rainfall and dry spell during important periods of plant growth, such as immediately after planting and later in plant growth. Lack of knowledge and skills in good groundnut production practices. We will now be taking you to the food and nutritional aspect of groundnut. Eating groundnuts can help families reduce malnutrition since groundnuts have high levels of protein, lots of oil, and are a good source of vitamins, particularly vitamin E and vitamin B. Groundnuts are a particularly important source of protein for those without regular, affordable access to meat, eggs, or dairy products. Roasted groundnuts are a common snack in Cameroon and other African countries. Groundnut flour is a common ingredient and relish that's used, which are served with staples such as maize or rice. And groundnuts are also eaten roasted, raw, cooked, and fried. I will now be looking at groundnuts in livestock feed. Groundnut can be used in livestock feed because groundnut starch and groundnut seed cake are rich in protein. Groundnut improves weight gain in livestock. Using groundnut as livestock feed is limited in Cameroon for several reasons, including groundnut's importance as an inexpensive source of protein in human diet, lack of processing facilities, the high cost of transportation from growing areas to feed meals, the low price that farmers receive when selling to the animal feed industry. Nevertheless, the groundnut stem or stalks can be fed to livestock or incorporated into the soil. You have been listening to Farmers Corner on the Lakeside Radio FM 91.18 Kumba. In today's edition of the program, we had a background information on the production of groundnuts. This program was brought to you by the Lakeside Radio in partnership with Farm Radio International. And on a subsequent edition of the program, we shall be going down to the field to talk to some successful groundnut farmers who shall equally be telling us about their success stories and some difficulties they encounter in the production of groundnuts. Meanwhile, as guests on the program, equally next week, we shall be having as guests the divisional delegates of agriculture who shall be answering a series of questions and equally tell us about some opportunities available for the groundnut farmers. Don't go away, stay tuned to the Lakeside Radio for more interesting programs. My name for presentation, I've been Big Ben Luis. We had assistance technically from Paulo Tawong, and equally, Madam Dewa Morin was there for general supervision. Have a blessed day.
I'm sang quine jump the yam.